Welcome to the part two of Kolkata, uh, sponsored and organized by Lumiere's Monday, Lumiere Consulting. And as I again and again say and appreciate Deepa's initiative in this, thank you, Deepa, for calling me here and sharing my information with you. Let us now talk about, we earlier on, we talked about the importance of Bengal and we ended with certain things which Kolkata has, which has its resemblance with many monuments in either Europe, inspiration being drawn from them, or certain things first. And we ended with the first medical school and the college that was established in Calcutta in 1835. And we also talked about the first student, and we also talked about the first woman who had a small stint, but she did not study there, she had a small stint there. Let's now get to know what is Marathas to do with Bengal. Marathas, which was a power between 1720 to 1818, close to 98 years, had a complete sway over India, close to 100 years of sway by the Marathas over India. So, as it is said in Marathi, from Atok, which is in Rawalpindi, to Katak, which is close to in Orissa and Bengal area, is was the sway of Marathas. So, this is a story of Marathas and Bengal. Ali Ardi Khan, who was the Nawab of Bengal, Ali Ardi Khan, who was the Nawab of Bengal, uh, and the was Bengal, was doing his own job, but at the same time, it was the governor of Orissa, Murshid Quli II, who revolted against him. The revolt was crushed by Alivardi Khan, but it was again took shape in the form of taking some refuge by Murshid Quli Khan with Raghuji Bhosle of Nagpur. Now, if you look at the map properly, Nagpur and Orissa has its own close proximity. And we had another confederacy in the form of Bhosles of Nagpur and Amravati. So they aligned with Murshid Quli Khan and they defeated Ali Vardi Khan. That was the whole story. But in the course of doing that, Marathas made close to 6 raids on Orissa and Bengal. For 10 years, Maratha raided that entire area and occupied and probably looted that area. Unfortunately, Marathas do not have a good name in that part of the country. The casualties for 10 years is close to 4 lakh of people in those 6 raids that were conducted. And by the end of the day, Marathas stopped these raids in 1751 at the cost of 1.2 million as annual chout. This was Raghuji Bhosle. Januji Skion and Raghuji Bhosle plundered the country, and his Diwan, Baba Bhaskar Pandit, or Baba Pandit Bhaskar Ram Kolhatkar, who was the Diwan of this entire family, was responsible for actually looting and and killing and terrorizing that entire area. As a matter of fact, it is said that the children who would not sleep and the mothers put them to sleep by singing a lullaby and telling them, Baba Bhaskar Pandit will come, you better sleep. As a result of which, the English went to the then Nawab and requested to put up a ditch, a khandak in Marathi, to avoid these raids. It was known as Maratha Ditch. It was supposed to be 7 miles, but they ended at 3 miles because the raid stopped and the chautha or the ransom money was paid. This is the Maratha light cavalry. Because they were looting, the term for a looter in Bengal or in Odisha is Bargir. Bargir are the people who are not viewed in the very respectable ways, but yes, Bargir is the term. And who is a Bargir? Bargir is a Sawar or a person who is a horseman who never owned a horse, neither the equipment, but he had to hire it from somebody, and they were mercenaries primarily. And this is the Maratha light infantry, I mean light cavalry, and this is the Maratha ditch if you see it. This was the Maratha ditch which was built around Fort Williams, and even today If you go to Calcutta, you will find Maratha Ditch Lane, and I have given you this particular placard of a given electrical license contractor, 9 Maratha Ditch Lane, Kolkata. It is still there today. So that is the kind of a presence Marathas had even in Bengal. What is so unique about Calcutta, ladies and gentlemen? What is so very, very unique that you need to carry home? It was known as a three town in one city. It was known as a black town, where the Indians resided. It was also known as a white town. The complete city was divided into three different parts, and it was also known as a South town. South town, black town, and white town is quite obvious for you to understand, but South town was nothing else but a Noor rich who had a typical South Calcuttian culture, as we have it in Mumbai, the South Bombay culture is what these people will come from. And as a result, they are known as South Town people or South Calcuttans. Clay pots. Clay pot is a culture. Having tea in the bhar or a cooler is a culture. And how does the bhar or a cooler is made? It is coming from the clay of Hooghly or or Ganga. And people in Calcutta will swear by the taste that they achieve by having tea only in the cooler. And it is very traditional to break the cooler after you have the tea. The rickshaws. It was one of the only towns up until now which had rickshaws. It originated in Shimla, the summer capital of the British, and it was brought to Calcutta. It was nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, but the imperialistic dynamics between master and slave. It is very heart rending for somebody to sit. I have tried doing that, and I was not really able to comfortably sit when somebody like me is pulling me across from one end to the other. But yes, it had its own practical importance during the flooding and the small bylanes of Calcutta. The Zamindaris and the Rajbaris. The Zamindars of Calcutta and Bengal were probably far richer than most of the Rajas and Maharajas of the small principalities of India. They really, really ruled the whole place, and they were given the free hand after the Permanent Settlement Act of 1793, which was established by the British East India Company. Their palatial houses cannot be matched even by the best of the palaces. There are close to 100 odd Rajbaris in Bengal. The opulence and the etymology, as we I know. Bungalow is so well and so easily said by every Indian that I own a bungalow. I went to somebody's bungalow, but it originates from Bengal. The Bengali style house where the British stayed was known as a bungalow. The Rajbari is nothing else but like a Raja, a person would stay in a mansion which was far beyond that. And here you can see a typical Indian zamindar and also a white zamindar because the white also adopted their culture. City within a city. How many of us know the fact that the Nawab, the last Nawab of Awadh, escaped or rather left Awadh in a huff because he did not like the treaty of supremacy that was leveled on him, and he left in a huff only to go to England and make a formal complaint to the Queen of England. He travelled all the way to Calcutta to take a steamer to England, fell sick, and couldn't proceed further, and spent his last 30 years in that place. Now he was a huge, big man, a rich man, and was getting close to 12 lakh of rupees salary from Britishers for having left Awadh. That is a different story I've already spoken to you about in my earlier episodes of Awadh. But what did that man do? He tried to create Lucknow in a place which today is known as Mitia Buruj. Mitia Buruj is nothing else but a tower of mud. And that is an area today. Today it has become a Muslim ghetto, not to be, it's not considered to be a posh or a very clean locality, unfortunately, though. But at some point in time, it was a place, a happening place. Here are a few examples or a few pictures of Media Buruj. This is the Shahi Mosque in Calcutta of Wajid Ali Shah. Mini Lucknow that was created by Wajid Ali Shah. These are few of his imambaras here. This is where his grave stands, last king of England. This is how the tailoring part of it, the pan, the kathak, and the various music that came into Calcutta has its influence from Awadh. Look at the demographic change that keeps taking place, and this is the influence that we have on over each other. This is the whole story about understanding how do we do certain things the way do we do. And this is a residence of Wajid Ali Shah in exile at one point in time. This is today the residence of General Manager of Bengal Nagpur Railway, now Southeastern Railway. It was known and it is still known as BNR House, Bengal Nagpur Railway. But before the GM of Bengal Nagpur Railway occupied this, it was occupied and it was under occupation by Wajid Ali Shah. It is also on the banks of Hooghly. Unique demographic shift. Slavery was a bad name at some point in time, after, especially after the independence, the War of Independence in the United States of America. Slavery was banned officially, globally. Suriname, one of the Dutch colonies, was very badly affected by that, to an extent that 90% of the plantations in Suriname were closed down. 90% of them. So they made a very earnest request to the British, who had colonies all over the world, and especially in India, to provide them with a contract labor as long as they were willing to go. Because the whole idea was to ensure that they were not forced to go there and work. So the best place for the Britishers was Calcutta. The Bihari labor which came cheap, the Odia labor which came cheap, and the Bangla poor which came cheap were transported very willingly out of Calcutta and from the ports of Calcutta. This is the migration of Indian labor, of the indentured labor from India. You can see it, the British Guiana, the Suriname, the French Guiana, all these colonies, ladies and gentlemen, the Fiji Island, the Malaya, the Mauritius, that wherever we find the Indian presence, wherever you find these Indian names there, they made themselves good today. But they came as a result of this policy of banning of slavery all over the world and the need of indentured labor or contract labor to ensure that the plantation worked and produced something for a better review. Paramaribo, which is the capital of Suriname, was the place where all these indentured labor from Calcutta, coming from Bihar and Odia and also from Bangla, were transported to. For your information, the current president of Suriname, the Chandrika Prasad Santoki, is a part and parcel of this indentured labor. When he became the president of Suriname, he took the office oath or oath of office in Sanskrit, whilst having the copies of Vedas in his hand. This is the photograph of the laborers who are known as Girmitia or Jahajis. This is a permit of one Jagga Singh of Nainital. 64 ships, Ganga, Sheila, Satluj, Deva, Zainab, and Zanzibar, transported close to 34,000 Indian migrants, says the historian Chenoni. Mauritius was known as Mirchi Desh because it produced paper. Trinidad was known as Chinidad because it produced sugar, chini. And Suriname had the name of Ram somewhere, so it was known as a holy place to go. Contractee labor, as they are known as, they were also known as contractee. Contractee come from contract. Suriname Ghat, as a result of which a Suriname Ghat has been built. It is also known as Bhalu Ghat. If you go down to Calcutta, do have a look at it. This is from this place where most of the Indians migrated all over the world, and today they have done great. To an extent, people became presidents and prime ministers of those countries. This is the gift given by Suriname government to the Indian government, and this is the statue of Baba and Mai on the Balu Ghat, which is in Calcutta. There's a similar statue also in Suriname standing tall in the city of Paramaribo, which is the capital of Suriname. One more thing which is very unique about Calcutta, the British network of sewers. There are 180 kilometers of brick sewers in Kolkata. 88 kilometers are man entry sewers. What does that mean? It means that a man can go through that. It is close to 175 years old sewerage system. Think about the long term. 175-year-old. How many of us are aware of all these things? Here is the case. One can walk through these sewers and they're still functional, taking well, taking care of it. The trade shift. Have you ever thought about the fact that how did Marwadis come into Calcutta? Marwad is on the complete western coast of India, Rajasthan, and we're talking about a complete shift on the eastern coast of Rajasthan. Marwadis, the trading community, ladies and gentlemen, were doing very good because of the Silk Route. The moment the Silk Route stopped, sometimes in 1500, the traders did not know where to go. And that was also the time when the colonists were taking over India, whether it was Bombay or Calcutta. Britishers were the last to come. As a businessman, they were attracted to Calcutta more because there were more such factories, which I have told you earlier. There were close to 7 different settlements of 7 different countries in Calcutta. So they all shifted here. They all shifted here and they made Pura Bazaar as their point of contact. And they were moving and trading in tea gardens. They had their investments in jute mills and engineering firms, and everything that you can think about changed hands in a very short period. Look at the migration coming from Rajasthan to a place completely far flung only for business and trade, and settling down there and taking over the businesses and the finances of that entire area. This is a typical Gadi of a Marwadi, and they traded in jute. Rain gambling pioneered the cashless Hundi remittances, and they traded in opium and grain or cloth. These are the Marwadis. And many more. I've just given you the known names, the Tarachans, the Ruiyas, the Birlas. They are the ones who are actually calling the shots. Not only in Calcutta today, but all over the country. Calcutta stock market is the third in the line. Second in the line, I'm so sorry. Third is Ahmedabad. Kolkata was not just the political but also the commercial capital of British. I'm reading it verbatim. The trade volume from Bengal were higher than Bombay for most part of the time. And now let me talk about the freedom. From Firman to freedom. Here is the cause of the revolt. As we know, Enfield rifles, which were the part and parcel of the British armory, they had these cartridges, and people, these were grease cartridges. It's a simple way. One had to bite the cartridge, take out the gunpowder, put the bullet inside, and then shoot it. But while you're biting the grease also. So there was a rumor that it could be a pig's grease or a pig's lard, or it could be a cow's grease or a cow's lard. And that was the basic cause of the trigger, or the basic spark of revolt, because it was going against the religion of either or. And it happened in Barakpur, just 24 kilometers away from Calcutta, which is almost a part of Calcutta. So this city, this area has started with the Firmans, which allowed the British entry and also started the first spark of the revolt for the freedom of India. And it was nobody else but the man known as Mangal Pandey who started it. He was the one, little high on opium, and he threatened the British commander in that particular infantry that he would kill everybody who comes to his side. But yes, he was arrested, and finally he was put to death by hanging. This is the only photograph of him which was coming in the form of a postal graph or photograph of government of India. The irony here is very much that when we had this movie called The Rising, Mangal Pandey The Rising, the Muhurat shot, take one clap, was done by none other than the Charles, the Prince Charles, dressed in blue suit, said while giving the clap for the Ketan Mehta's Indo-British joint venture, rising Murat shot, take one clap. He said that. Look at the irony. The present prince or the present king today of England was made, or he came and he obliged in giving the first clap for the same person who started the revolt in India. Pandey in those days, my friends, was a derogatory term used by the British for the traitors. Kolkata, over a period of time in 2001, changed its name officially. Officially, it changed its name. Okay. Although Kolkata is not very economically dynamic. Yes, it is not as compared to that. There are political things that we can talk about, political seepages which have really uh, taken over the content and the soul of this very city, which was known as the city of palaces. At one point, it was known as the city of the blacks. It is today and now, at one point in time, known as city of the palaces. I do not know what would we call it today, but yes, it certainly is a pot boiler of culture, undoubtedly. Pot boiler of artistic literacy and intellectual sense. It is one. You go to Calcutta and you feel it. You feel that vibrancy over there. In every other Bhadralok or a typical Bangla who stays there. This is Kolkata for you. The British power extended over the subcontinent, ladies and gentlemen. The entire northern India became the hinterland for the port of Calcutta. In 1835, it created an open market and the construction of railways beginning in 1854. This quickened the development of business and industry. So Calcutta was responsible. It was a center point for the business development of India. It was what which got India to the forefront in the world. It also was rooted from that point. That was also the center where the loot went out. British mercantile, banking, and insurance interests flourished. Calcutta became a busy hub of commerce. Calcutta became an intellectual center of the subcontinent. And here is a statement made by one person whom we all know by now. He says, "By God, Mr. Chairman, at this moment I stand astonished at my own moderation." And who says that? Robert Clive, when he was put to inquiry by the British government for the corruption and the mismanagement of the funds of East India Company in 1773. When he left, ladies and gentlemen, Bengal was affected by a worst famine ever. 10 million people in Bengal, especially Bengalis, perished. Inquiry was set up against Clive for mismanagement of funds. So the person who was being recorded and applauded as a builder of the British Empire in India had to stand in front of few people and explain his stand as to what he did and how he did it and why he did it. He was questioned. He was not let go just like that. And this was the final statement. He says, "By God, Mr. Chairman, at this moment I stand astonished at my own moderation." So, the loot. Lord Vulture and the Madras tyrant Robert Clive was one of the last East India Company's governor who would be cleared by the Parliament. He was not cleared by the Parliament for quite some time. It is documented that he amassed a personal fortune of more than 2,34,000 pounds when he left India in 1767. 1757 was the Battle of Plassey. After 10 years, this man leaves India, and what does he do? He takes with him a chef, only to have Kimanam back home. Not only that, but he makes a very palatial house for himself and names that house Palasi. This house still stands tall in Ireland today. It is the University of Limerick. Job Connar or Charnock was the one in 1690, actually was the one who founded Calcutta, if he is given that kind of a credit. He died in Calcutta 2 years later. He was buried, and he is buried in Calcutta, and his mausoleum is in the graveyard of St. John's Church, Calcutta. Here is the one. Please do visit the man who founded Calcutta. From the Firmans, ladies and gentlemen, to freedom, Calcutta offers a tapestry of its uniqueness. As a black town, as it was known earlier, it is turned brown. Its country, that is India, is here to be reckoned with. What is it to be reckoned with? with the spirituality of Vanga or the Banga to the vision statement of the cognitive excellence in the virtual space of technology. Ladies and gentlemen, Job, Charnock Job just did his job. He just left his signature behind. Thank you so very much for having me on the show today. Dhanyabad. Thanks a lot.
So, Jhankar, thank you very much for that very illuminating and insightful presentation on Kolkata. You've taken us through a history of over 200 years to with very great detail of what is the impact and the influence Kolkata and the happenings at that point of time and what it meant for India and our history. So, thank you once again for that extremely insightful and rich presentation.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks.